Who has it worse right now, Florida State or Florida with recruiting?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles football with me. But today we got Brandon Olsen to talk recruiting and which team is in a bigger struggle bunch with the recruiting deal. Is it FSU or is it UF? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's get Brandon in here to talk some football recruiting. I don't know why I just did that. There we go. Welcome to the show again, Brandon. Neither program right now exactly in the greatest spot. Florida's playing better than Florida State. They're 3-2. FSU is 1-5. Napier is in year 3. UF fans are not happy. We're just kind of going to go back and forth. I have a few basic questions. Both teams, like their recruiting classes, I mean, like right now, 24/7 has UF as the 37th class in the country. I mean, no offense, but like that should never be the case with UF and Florida State's class. I want to say it's almost the same. It's pretty close here, and we'll see what Woden comes up with. But Florida State's recruiting class is 34, so they're both not in the top 30. There should never be a situation where either one of those schools are. So, by the way, how are you doing, man? Everything good?
Yeah, we haven't talked much because I know this recruiting class is falling apart. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just talk football. Let's not worry about that stuff. That's just going to be moot whenever it actually happens.
Okay. First off, I don't know the full gamut of who, what, when, where, and why with UF, but as a rule, as somebody that's followed recruiting since the late 80s, early 90s, the way it usually works with elite programs, the worst news comes. The elite players are going to get bitten at by the Sharks. Hey, why are you going to go there? Because they're going to lose their coach. And there's not a lot you can do about it as a coaching staff except to say, I'm going to be there. But there's no way to know that. Recruits want definitive guarantees. All the people complaining on the message boards and all that, guys like you and me complaining about the coaches, and rightfully so, all these parents, 7-on-7 coaches, high school trainers, head coaches at the high schools, they hear and read this stuff too. What do you think Napier and his staff is doing, if anything, that's different than Florida State's? I think that he's more likely to get canned than Norvell. Like Norvell, he did, if I remember, he re-upped, and it's not. I don't even want to know the number. It's bad.
It's a 10-year contract.
I would say it's like they're in a bad spot. I don't even want to really get into him so much.
Yeah.
But how long does Billy have at UF after this season?
Hopefully he doesn't have up until the end of this season, but contractually,
what's on his contract? How many years left does he have?
I believe 2028 is when it expires. 2027.
Okay, so that's not a huge deal by comparison. Like Florida State's in a really bad spot.
Yeah,
and I don't know the buyout number and all the other things, but it's Florida State's tough spot.
While we're on the topic of the buyout, do you know that if Billy Napier gets fired before the end of this season, that'll be the second biggest buyout in college football history behind only Jimbo?
Well, I knew Jimbo is an easy, like A&M's got the deepest pockets, so I'm not surprised. Yeah, that's not helpful at all. But That's why I think that just as a general trend, you're going to see fewer coaches that deserve to be fired. It's just money.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, Florida's one thing, Florida State's another, but schools like a Maryland or a West Virginia, schools that want to win, but they don't have the same funding. What are you going to do? Because if we fire this guy, who are we hiring with what little we have left? It's a really big problem. So here's my first thing. If Billy gets canned before or right after the UGA game, do you think that's good enough to at least, I hate using this phrase, but to salvage the class?
No.
I don't either.
No, I don't think, from what I was told, again, this is from what I was told. Other people will be told differently, and we'll probably figure out somewhere in the middle there. I was told that a lot of the recruits are genuinely going to just, the way that it was worded was out of respect for Billy, because they do still respect him. when he gets canned, they will decommit and make their flips for the most part. So that's when I'm expecting things to happen. A lot of people have said, hey, like Billy's still calling me every day. Billy's still texting me every morning. Like Billy's still out there. Out of respect for him, they'll wait until he's actually fired before they officially flip or decommit. But you can see the writing on the wall with a lot of kids. They're starting to take visits elsewhere. And even though they're committed to Florida, if you're taking visits, I feel like at that point it's like, all right, well, you're not locked in with the school. And that's kind of how things are shaping up.
Well, that brings up the next point. This is a hypothetical because I want to educate people here on the show. You and I talked about this right before the show aired, and we talked about it earlier this year on and off air. December 4th is National Signing Day. So recruiting is different. It used to be the third Wednesday in December. Now it's the first. Really not a big deal generically, but then you take into the coaching scene, it becomes catastrophic. And here's why. Because all the garbage that's happened in our world politically, and obviously right now it's as politicized as it's been in my lifetime, probably ever will be, everything is looked at. And it takes forever to do these background checks. If you hire a coach on November 15th, he may or may not be eligible to be listed on the website, get an email, be able to make phone calls, introduced, any of that by signing day. It's literally 2 to 3 weeks. If he's coached in like 5, 6 states, which a lot of these guys have, they move around a lot. That stuff is not quick. You have no chance to build a relationship, sometimes not even literally talk to a young man and or his mother, his high school coach. I tried to warn some of my brethren here at Locked On Seminoles about it, but look, there's no pretty here. It's not a Florida problem. It's not a Florida State problem. This is a now until they change the day to signing day, which I kind of think that's where it's going to be forever. If you fire your coach or everybody knows he is and his assistants or whatever, that class is toast. It really is. And both Florida and Florida State, I don't think, again, Norvell's not going to get fired this year. He deserves to be, but that's another story. They're not going to fire him. Some assistants are going to roll. It's going to hurt Florida State. Have you heard anything about which assistants, if any, at UF are kind of looking around? Because they know this. They're not dumb. These guys know each other. And it's a buddy-buddy system. Coach so-and-so in the NFL was my roommate when we were graduate assistants at this school. I'm going to go to the NFL for a year or two. Have you heard anything on that, or what's the deal with UF?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I said Billy Napier's been contacting a lot of people. Let's just say some of these assistant coaches have essentially punted on third down here.
That is one of the greatest quotes of all time.
Yeah. Let's say that Billy Napier still out there, still grinding, still doing everything he possibly can. Some of these assistants, dunzo. And they know it. They know it. They're already. I've been told. I'm not going to air anything out on, but I've been told what some assistants have directly said, like, this is where I'm going to be next year, or this is my plan for next year. So.
That's hilarious. This is stuff that I'd heard for years anyway. When I first started covering recruiting in the 90s.
They know they're gone. Like a lot of these coaches are like, yeah, man, we're cooked. It's just even if we have a decent year, I know that before the year, some of the expectation, I've said this on my show, was always my expectation was, I think if Florida wins 5 games, they would keep Billy Napier. Then you had the embarrassment by Miami. And I genuinely believe that changed things. I think that that's where a lot of boosters were like, you know what? I don't care how many games you win. I'm not trying to get embarrassed. And then Texas A&M comes into your house and embarrasses you. Texas A&M won by 2 touchdowns, and you could say, oh, yeah, 13 points isn't that bad. They didn't
even try to score. Yeah, they didn't even try to score really the last quarter and a half.
Yeah, it was over. Like they
with the backup quarterback.
Exactly. They beat you with 2 touchdowns with a backup quarterback in a game where you were dominated in the first half. And then in the second half, Texas A&M was like, hey, let's just run the ball, get out of here.
True.
And it's just been embarrassing. And I think that's been a main thing under Billy Napier is that far too often, and this has been, you can go back to 2022 when I talked about this, far too often, there are a lot of negative things that get put on Florida, that get put on a national scale. And I'm not saying that to cry about it. I'm saying that I think that this coaching staff and Florida as a whole have done a terrible job at the PR aspect of being a Power 4 coach. And that's something Billy's never had to deal with prior to. He didn't have to deal with that at ULL. People weren't like, oh, this is an elite program. People didn't have those expectations at Louisiana. Now they do. And now you have to manage things. And optically, Florida's just a laughing stock by the national standards. And you and I had this conversation a lot this summer alone. I understand nationally, Florida is looked at as a laughing stock. Internally, there are still a lot of people that believe in this program. Internally, like on the roster and everything, he's still got that buy-in. We talked about it off air. Everybody was talking about, oh, Trey Wilson's going to redshirt after he missed the Mississippi State game. He's back this week. He's not redshirting. You look at last week, he's getting hyped. He's yelling on the sideline. I don't know what voodoo Billy Napier learned in Louisiana that he's doing this. But he's still got a lot of buy-in, whether or not you, me, or anyone else thinks it's warranted.
All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about the inevitable change at Florida that's going to happen, what that looks like, and how this could be Florida State a year from now. That's next at Locked On Seminoles. All right. Gametime. Have you downloaded the Gametime app yet? This is your chance to get something that will help you go to an event of just about any kind. Football. Well, here's an example. If you're a Florida State fan and you really dislike Florida, like most of you probably do, well, why don't you go to the Florida-Georgia game and watch Georgia kill Florida? It might be Billy's last game. He may not even make it there. You can get that ticket on Gametime. Gametime is simple. Put it on your phone. You look up a team. You type in the game event you want. You click on it. You find a seat. And you can even see the venue from your seat right on your cell phone. It's pretty cool. I'm not the most patient kind of guy, so it's really a good fit for me, and I'm sure it is for you as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right. You and I have guessed and speculated about Billy's replacement forever. Obviously, the trending name is Lane Kiffin, and there's a couple of things. You'd even brought this up to me. The signing day thing is goofy, for one, because it brings up, and that impacts all the assistants if you're just kind of doing what FSU's probably going to do and changing some assistants after the year. UF is in a different deal, and this is not anybody's fault. It's just part of the windfall of the playoffs. But if Ole Miss makes the playoff, UF is in trouble, at least short term. My theory is you hire the best coach, even if you have to wait. Their class is going to suck anyway. So it's just a really gut-wrenching, slow grind. Like Florida fans are going to be in agony, and I get it. But if he's in the playoff, like
going to be,
agony. I don't know if. Well, I mean, like more. At least they have something to talk about during there's nothing to talk about.
I'm definitely feeling it already. Like, let's not say going to be as if that's not present tense right now.
Okay, well, Florida fans continue their agony into December, and Lord only knows when, but like the first weekend, somewhere around the 20th of December. I don't know how they're doing, if it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I don't know. But that weekend, they're going to have games. That's the first one. If you're old, can you imagine? I mean, Ole Miss is a bottom tier program historically in that week. It just is. And he's elevated it by all means. There's no way on God's green earth he's going to walk away from that with a future NFL quarterback, the best defense Ole Miss has had in my lifetime, Trey Harris, and just a plethora of good football players on that. Lane's going to go in the playoff. He holds all the cards. And I know UF fans are probably, no, he's not. I guarantee you, for the idiot brigade to think he's just going to walk away from that and go coach UF right away, crack cocaine is a hell of a drug. Okay? Get off of it. Seek help. It's not going to happen. The question is, would that cause any problems in your eyes with the administration and boosters? I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't asked anybody. I don't have any contacts like you do. Do you think that would cause any consternation and maybe they go in another direction?
I think that it's a multi-pronged problem right now because, yeah, boosters are going to have to consider you're essentially punting on this recruiting class, and you're going to have to rely heavily on the transfer portal window whenever you get a head coach. But let's say you make an agreement with, we'll use Lane because Lane's the guy we're talking about. Let's say you come to an agreement with Lane, even if it's back channels, and it's like, hey, whenever you get eliminated, you're going to get hired by Florida. What if they make a run? What if it's not, oh yeah, December 20th?
Yeah. What if they go to the Final Four or something?
Yeah. What if they make a run and then it becomes or any transfer portal kids, any recruits that were considering you, and because there's also, you can go, oh, like I'm not going to do the early signing. I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm gonna try to do whatever I can. You kind of miss out on a lot there, and that's multi-pronged there. But also, I know there's a lot of Florida Gators fans that go, hey, like I hope Lane doesn't make the playoffs. I hope Lane doesn't make the playoffs and he's actually available right away. Do you want a guy that with that roster doesn't make the playoffs? Like does that now become an issue? Doesn't make the playoffs? Is it now, well, you have this amazing defense. I know a lot of Florida Gators fans have given me crap for praising Pete Golding when Lane Kiffin hired him. I think Pete Golding's a damn good defensive coordinator. I like him. I think he's a good coach. Their defense has been really good. Even the games they lost were not on the defense. They lost to Kentucky,
20-17. The offense didn't do what they had to do against Kentucky.
Yeah, the defense lights out. And I know early in the season it was, oh, look who they're playing. Look who they're playing. They played Kentucky and they played South Carolina, and they gave up a grand total of 23 points in those two games in the SEC play. I don't care who you're playing in the SEC. If you can give up 3 points,
even Vanderbilt is good.
If Vanderbilt hung 40 on Alabama, like if you could hold two teams to 23 points over 2 weeks, that's impressive. But if you have all that and you can't even make the playoff, that's concerning. Can you do it at Florida? So I think that there might be that pause, I guess, with Lane Kiffin there. It's multi-pronged. I don't think there's a good answer, honestly. I just think that this is the worst time for Florida to need to make all of these changes because it's just layered where we've talked about today. Oh, yeah. Early signing days moved up to December 4th now. So you're going to have to worry about that. And what if he makes the playoff and all that stuff? Absolutely. But what people don't talk about enough with Florida is that while you go, hey, fire Billy, figure out the next head coach, you're likely, and you should, fire your athletic director as well. Scott Strickland, you don't get to make 3 coaching hires in football, especially when all of your other hires, you've got one good hire under your belt so far. And even then, that's an unproven hire in Todd Golden at basketball. So you could talk about that layer added to it. Let's add another layer to it. Florida as a university doesn't have a president right now. So Florida will have to work president. We'll have to work out athletic director, head coach, all with it. It's just the ultimate combination of FU Florida. Like that's all it is, where the year that the early signing period moves up is when everything also piles on of new president, because you brought in Ben Sass as your president, and then he stepped down a couple months ago, and now you're searching for a new president again, and then now a new AD, new head coach, new everything. It's just the worst time to need all of this, where people have said boosters are going to be leading this hire, essentially. And I know that they'll go, not really. We know what's going on. But will they be able to make a decision and make a hire by the time it matters? What with everything going on, it's just the absolute worst cocktail of failure and disappointment right now that can be happening for Florida.
All right, when we come back, we're going to mix this a little bit with Florida State because the assistant coach thing is what the Gators are going to have to go through, and the head coach. Florida State probably only has to go through the other. That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can get stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right. This is where it's interesting. Florida State, in my opinion, I did this on my show earlier this week. I think the O-line coach / coordinator absolutely has to go. Brandon, here's the horrific stat of the day for Florida State. There are 134 teams in the FBS. What position do you think Florida State is in rushing?
111.
133.
God damn. All right.
That is horrific.
Yeah.
It should never happen at Florida State, Miami, Florida, Georgia. I mean, there's no way around it. And he's also the guy that got in trouble for recruiting somebody off of Bama's roster or whatever. So, or NIL, I don't know what it was, but he got suspended 3 games.
He was like driving the recruit to events.
Yeah, I remember.
Talking about NIL directly. It was like a wild, it seemed like an egregious thing.
So anyway, his name shall not be mentioned on my show anymore. I think he's gone. I also think there's a chance Fuller is gone. I don't know. They're weird. They have one of the weirdest stats in college football. They're 14th or 18th in both sacks and tackles for loss, which is great. But they're giving up like 46% on third downs, which is, again, egregious. If you're good at rushing the passer, how do you suck on third down? Florida State finds ways to defy logic. So on top of it, they're not great recruiters. So like O-line recruiting in 2021, 22 for FSU under that unnamed person was bad, really bad. And now you don't have any seniors that you currently, you know what I mean? Like it's you reap what you sow. I think Florida State, even though they got like the 34th ranked class or whatever, I'm really worried about a few guys. And I'm curious if you've heard anything on this, but he's just a man-child. Florida really went after him. I kind of thought for a while he might go there. Solomon Thomas, I'm worried that he's not going to end up in the class if you get rid of the coach, but I don't see how you can't. Solomon Thomas might be the best offensive lineman in the country. You could make an argument for that. In fact, as 24/7 has him the number one O-line, like he's an animal. What is your take on that? Do you just go through with it and deal with it? I don't see any other way. That's mine. But what do you do in that situation, in your opinion?
So I came up in media covering the NFL draft, and I don't know if that's what instilled this in me, but I would never sacrifice program success for a player. So I understand if you fire Billy Napier, there's a pretty good chance that you lose DJ Lagway, and I think DJ Lagway is a phenomenal quarterback recruit, for a phenomenal quarterback prospect. I take that chance because I need a coach that can. It doesn't matter if I have DJ Lagway if I have a lame duck coach, right? It doesn't matter if you have Solomon Thomas if you have a lame duck coach. So I firmly have the stance of don't sacrifice your program's health for a recruit. It's just, especially with how volatile recruiting is and how volatile it is for kids to actually work out. Because we talked about this with the NFL and college. Once these kids get on campus and they're away from home and things are different, you don't know if they're actually going to continue that work ethic, even if they have that at home, and maybe they have someone that really motivates them and keeps them on schedule. So I just, my general rule of thumb, rule of practice, whatever you want to call it, is I understand that you probably punt on the recruiting class. Sometimes it's worth it if it means the long-term health and success of your program.
That's kind of where I am too, but I just want to kind of pre-qualify fans for what's coming. I'm also worried about other guys. I think they'll lose at least one, if not both, of their top receiver recruits. They've been looking around anyway. Again, Florida State's run game's terrible. The offensive passing game isn't a whole lot better for the Noles. I mean, their offense is offensive. That's probably the best way to look at it. So anybody on the offensive side of the staff, in my opinion, at least is going to be looked at. The caveat might be Tokar's the quarterback coach. He's got 2 kids on campus that are pretty good quarterbacks. He's got another kid committed that's pretty good. Florida tried to flip him. I could see him staying.
Tried hard to flip him too.
Yeah, they did. You got a tight end coach that's 5th-year senior, can't catch passes. That's probably not good.
Florida wanted him too. Kyle Morlock. Florida was going for him when he hit the portal too.
Yeah, it is what it is. Look, there's so much that's went wrong. I think that not one, but both of Florida State and Florida could end up, no lie, in the 50s or below in recruiting. Because when they lose coaches, or even the rumors, like it's been started for obvious reasons by fans, and then guys like us that are just realistic and are able to talk the truth, you're going to lose coaches. Players, and we say this all the time. Brandon, did they pick schools or did they pick coaches in recruiting?
They pick coaches.
Exactly.
And they should, by the way. I want to make that clear. They should pick coaches. If you're coming to a Power 4 program like Florida State, you want to go to the NFL. Pick the coach that's going to get you there. I love Brian Hartline at Ohio State.
Yeah, there's a reason. Odell Higgins has done it for years of putting guys. I get it. Some people were calling for him, but he's recruited much better of late. But then they lost 2 guys. They lost 2 in-state guys, maybe the best pass rusher in the country. They had decommitted already. Like Florida State is in a tough spot. So, and Odell's a legend, played under Bobby and all that. That would be a different deal. He wouldn't just get thrown to the wolves. But there's really not many guys on the staff that shouldn't be at least looked at. Norvell is going to obviously do what all coaches do in front of the media. He's going to do 3 things. He's going to lie about what's going on behind scenes. He doesn't even know all of it. But what do you think that Napier is doing with his staff? Like, is there anybody that you think is just completely quit? That's the first way you tell a guy's gone, is they stop recruiting. Why would you invest in something if you're not going to physically be at that institution? I get it. Is there any of that going on to your knowledge?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know one specific position coach, which again, I said I'm not going to name names or anything.
And you shouldn't, but that's funny. That
when he gets fired, sure, I'll air the scene. I don't care about that one. But
there we go.
Yeah, once you're fired, I don't care. I have no loyalty toward you. But yeah, I know there's one specific position coach who I was told by a parent of a recruit, stop calling. Napier's still in contact. Napier's still in contact with everybody, to my knowledge.
Good for him, by the way. Good for him.
Hey, yeah, I've said before, like, I know that a lot of people like to go, oh yeah, like Napier's just giving up because he's going to get a $26 million buyout. It's a lot better than a $26 million buyout, a contract extension that gets you even more money if you were to get fired, than a contract extension that gives you longer sustained wealth. And I know there are people that give up on programs. Dan Mullen did. Billy Napier's not. Criticize his coaching, criticize his ability all you want. He's heart, it's there. He's trying. That's the sad part though. He's trying. It's just not good enough for it.
That's fair. Last question for you. If it's not Kiffin, who would you want? I'm just curious. I don't really know what Florida. I have no idea what their list is, so I'm just open-endedly asking.
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of names, and Kiffin included. There's not many that excite me at all.
It's not a good year, in my opinion.
I think it's because the way that I look at this hire and how I think Florida will approach it is, I think they're looking for a guy that can recruit the state of Florida, because even though, the Florida brand recruits itself also, we can be realistic. Miami's about to clean house recruiting wise with everything going on with Florida and Florida State. So Miami's going to clean house. You need to be able to out-recruit Miami when it comes to the non-NIL kids. So you need to worry about that. You need to recruit the state of Florida. I think that most coaches should be offensive-minded head coaches, because I think it's easier to replace a defensive coordinator and a defensive system than it is to replace an offensive coordinator, offensive play caller, offensive system. So I think you're looking for that, and I think you're looking for a proven Power 4 coach at this point. There is a very short list of proven Power 4 winners that can recruit the state of Florida and are offensive-minded and that are affordable, because you're about to pay $26 million for Billy Napier, or somewhere between 19 and 26 million, depending on when he gets fired. Then you're going to have to pay that coach's buyout, and then you're going to have to pay that coach. And again, if you're looking for a proven Power 4 winner, you're going to be paying that coach upwards of $9 million a year, probably closer to 10. That's a lot of money. You need to be able to afford that. It's rough. I think I could look at someone that's even, I don't know. I know one name a lot of people like to throw around is I've seen James Franklin thrown around a lot, although not offensive minded. But that's the thing. You need to sacrifice something to broaden your coach.
Heck of a recruiter. He
hired Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas, who is the Kansas last year, and Kansas' offense sucks this year without him. With a lot of
they're totally different. Totally different.
Yep. And they suck this year. He's got Phil Trautwein, who went to Florida as his offensive line coach. Jawan Sider's always been a Florida, wants to go to Florida guy. It's just family stuff keeps him up in Pennsylvania. There's names out there. I'm personally not sold on someone like, I know Alex Golesh is someone that gets brought up a lot. I don't want a guy who's got a year and a half of head coach experience. I'm good on that one. Thanks. I'm good on that one. It's tough. It's just a really crappy cycle for Florida to have. Again, new president, new AD, new head coach, or likely new AD, new head coach, the signing period moving up, and a really small coaching pool. It's just a really crappy spot for Florida.
That's why I think all this, I knew it was a good idea to bring you on to help people understand. Florida State, just doing the assistant thing won't be easy. Because when the head coaching pool is like that, it's harder to get assistants because there's not as many guys that are open for jobs.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. So Florida State is in a tough spot as well. This isn't one or the other. Florida State and Florida in a bit of a tough go here as the coaching carousel gets ready to crank up. I'm curious to see when Napier gets booted. But they're 3-2. They've overexceeded our expectations in some ways. But in the 2 games they lost, they got plastered. That is a weird football team, man. That is a weird team. So, Brandon, thank you once again for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it. I will see you again soon, I'm sure. And while you're not here, I'll make fun of Florida whenever I can, just so you know. I
make fun of Florida all the time, so let's do it. Bullying works, okay? Bullying works.
Everybody have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.